the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, joins me now. Director, thank you for being with us here today. It's great to see you as always.
Thanks, Will. Likewise.
I do wonder exactly what's been done here, or what was done under the Biden administration. Was it they were saying that everyone who opposed, say, mask mandates or the vaccination of children are domestic violent extremists? Or were they saying that those are opinions often held by domestic violent extremists?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. That when you look at the language of these documents that I've declassified, first, the strategic implementation plan of the Biden administration's designation of potential violent domestic extremists, it really talks about people who may likely turn out to be domestic violent extremists, or those who may likely turn to violence because of these specific quote-unquote ideologies that they hold. And there's a consistent thread through here that these ideologies that they are designating as turning into potentially violent activities or being manifested in violent activities happen to be those of people who were using their First Amendment rights to oppose certain policies of the Biden administration. And while some of the examples that are focused on there have to do with those who opposed the COVID vaccine mandates, those who opposed the mask mandates, parents who were concerned that their children going to school may be forcibly vaccinated with the COVID vaccine without the consent or awareness of parents. The list goes on, but it's not exclusive to this. In some of these reports that we've declassified, it shows that people who were opposed to Biden's border policy, for example, could therefore have propensities to join a militia or could become these domestic violent extremists that we're talking about here. And again, it's important to look at this in the totality and the sequence of how this happened. These documents were issued in December of 2021. You remember very well, Will, the speech, the ominous speech that President Biden gave in 2022, where with this red background and Marines standing in the background, he issued an address to the nation warning the American people that Donald J. Trump and MAGA Republicans pose a direct threat to the fabric of our republic. And then you put that together with how the FBI and others within the Biden administration directed social media companies to censor Americans and undermine our First Amendment rights because, of course, the social media companies don't want to be in a position to support the spread of domestic violent extremism. So when you look at all of these things together, you understand at its core the thing that I committed to the American people to root out, which is the weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community and national security state against the American people.
Director, it's a little bit like that analogy or the test that I had to take when I took the law school entrance exam. And it's one of whether or not you can pass basic logic. It is all
right.
Baseball players wear hats, but do all people that wear hats play baseball? What it seems like was done here is you take domestic violent extremists in this document, they suggest often hold these opinions. But then they created degrees as what you just laid out, that if you hold those opinions, therefore you might be on the path to domestic violent extremism. So if somebody's watching at home and you went onto social media and you said, I don't believe in mask mandates, it's not necessarily that the Biden administration said, therefore you are an extremist, but it placed you, it appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, on some sort of continuum where you would be perhaps monitored on social media and characterized publicly, like you just described, from the President of the United States.
That's exactly the point. And this is where some former FBI agents have actually come out who were serving in the FBI during this period of time and it pointed out exactly that fact, that this line of continuum that they have created here that places a level of suspicion on people. Ultimately, again, the through line here are people who oppose President Biden administration's policies should be seen with some form of suspicion as a potential domestic terror threat. You've talked a lot about, you spoke with Senator Rand Paul about the Quiet Skies program, the secret domestic terror watch list program,
yes.
Something that the Biden administration placed me on the very day after I spoke out against Vice President Kamala Harris's policies and warned about the potential of the threat that she would pose if she were elected and served as commander-in-chief. So there are many different examples here that go towards exactly what you're talking about, that by laying this groundwork, they are then giving excuse and license to the FBI and other federal agencies to then surveil or carefully watch Americans who oppose the Biden administration's policies.
Let's continue on that path together. You did mention that interview with Senator Rand Paul. I wanted to play that for the audience where we talk about why you were placed on the Quiet Skies list. And he said something in that conversation, Director, that was fascinating. He said, there are others. And he also suggested there might be others who were visited at home. Watch this.
I do believe Tulsi Gabbard was selected for constitutionally protected speech and for her positions. And I want to see the deliberation. I have not yet seen the deliberation of who made the decision, who argued, and why the heck a former congresswoman who is now at the highest echelon of our government was put on a terrorist watch list. It's inexcusable, and I don't want to let it happen to an ordinary citizen, much less somebody who's in our government.
And as I mentioned, Director, he did go on to say he thinks there's a long list of others, including yourself, that were placed on these lists, perhaps other members of Congress.
Yes, I have heard from other members of Congress who themselves have said that while serving in Congress, they were placed on this list, and even after notifying TSA, remained on this list for a period of time. I think it's important to note that the TSA, the Federal Air Marshal Director that's been charged with administering this Quiet Skies program is continuing to justify the fact that I was put on this domestic terror watch list. But they have no answer for the fact that there were other high-level Americans who went and participated in the meetings that I did in Rome, at the Vatican, at which time I was placed on this list. I called them immediately and I said, hey, I'm going through all of this additional screening, surveillance. This is really weird. Did you have to go through that? And every one of them said, no, we were not. And the key difference there is the night before traveling, they were not on Fox News criticizing then Vice President Kamala Harris. So they're searching and trying to find some kind of justification for ultimately what this Quiet Skies program has become, one of many, unfortunately, in the federal government, a program that can and has been very easily used to be weaponized against those that the then Biden administration deemed to be a threat.
I've been on Fox News criticizing power for some years. I'll have to find out. Hopefully you can help as you declassify documents. Whether or not I'm on some
This is being deeply investigated as we speak.
I'm glad to hear that. Director, you're used to long-form conversations, and we appreciate having one with you here today. I hope you forgive me for a moment, as I want to set up this question for you. We're talking about people that the prior administration defined as living outside the law. When we watch now in current events, those who are supposed to guard the law step outside the law. I want to talk about Judge Hannah Dugan in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There's a new video out of Wisconsin and the Milwaukee County Courthouse that shows the lengths to which she went to protect Eduardo Flores Ruiz, an illegal immigrant. In the prior footage, you saw her approach two ICE agents who were standing in the hallway and asked them to visit the chief judge's office. While they stepped out of the hallway, Flores steps into the hallway with his lawyer to make his escape. What Dugan and Flores don't realize is that there's a third ICE agent watching them as they walk down the hallway. He is surveilling them and picks up a tail the minute Flores walks past him in the hallway. Now remember, Dugan has already distracted two ICE agents, but she missed the third. Flores and his lawyer walk down to the basement and out the door, still tailed by an ICE agent. When he gets to the door, almost to street level, you're going to see exactly what happens. Remember, he's still being tailed by one ICE agent. But when he hits the street, that's when he moves into a full-out sprint. He's made his escape with the help of Judge Hannah Dugan. You can see quickly there, he is sprinting across the street. Other footage will show you then, from a different angle, he makes a sprint all the way down the street for a few hundred meters, chased by an ICE agent until he is tackled and taken into custody. But this entire thing begins, Director, with the participation, the distraction of Judge Hannah Dugan, who's now facing charges of obstruction of justice. So, Director, I just want to get your reaction to that new video out in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Will, you know, it demonstrates something that we know already has been a common theme, especially under the previous administration, is that you have people in positions of authority and power who in their arrogance really believe that they can break the law, they can undermine the rule of law, and essentially in this case, I mean, yes, we talked about activist judges. She is clearly doing something to help someone who has already broken the law by entering our country illegally evade law enforcement who had him in their custody. And they've been able to get away with this for two reasons. Number one, there has been no transparency, and because there's been no transparency, there has been no accountability. And this is what we are seeking to bring about. This is what the responsibility and mission that I take very seriously is to shine a light, as has been done in this video, as has been done in the documents that we are declassifying, shine a light on areas and places that have not seen the light of day for a very long time and have allowed many bad actors within our own government to get away with either crimes or unconstitutional acts and undermining our God-given rights and freedoms that exist within the Constitution and that serve as the foundation of our republic. And the last thing I'll say on this, Will, is as we continue down this process, don't be surprised that we will see the very same playbook that has been used for a very long time in this country, where those very bad actors and their friends in the legacy and mainstream propaganda media will accuse us of the very things that they are guilty of in order to try to deflect away from how they and their actions are undermining the Constitution, the rights and freedoms and civil liberties of the American people.
I mentioned that Director Gabbard is used to long-form conversation. She's going to have another one with us here today because she's not going anywhere. Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.